Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's lights out and away we go.
Alberto's got away beautifully at the start of the great race.
Who's that got off?
Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
Welcome to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, brought to you by ProKarts Race Centre.
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside.
The ultimate pit stop,
The safety car is coming in
fueling your passion for motorsport.
with an emotional moment that means everything.
All of the latest results, analysis, and interviews.
Roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race.
I'm Jamie Lemura, motorsport enthusiast, historian, and media presenter.
And I'm Lee Harrison, motorsport professional, Sprint Master Karts race driver, and Formula One alumni.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, proudly supporting Scuderia Ferrari Club Adelaide. Now we enter into our segment of V8 Supercars, and I'll kick Lee aside for one moment and introduce one of our dear friends to the show. This lovely lady is actually one of the journos and presenters for V8 Supercars, Girls on Track champion, and also runs a podcast, I believe, with Careers with Gears. She's been a massive advocate for us, and I'll explain very shortly, but I want to welcome into the show Charlie Bullis. How are you?
Hi, how are you guys? I have to apologise for my voice, which is great to be on a podcast when you're losing your voice. But I came down with the dreaded flu and I'm just trying to kick it. So I feel like, I don't know if anyone's a fan of Friends, when Phoebe gets the flu and then she starts like doing sort of underground performances and things like that. That's what I feel like I could maybe do right now. I've got the voice for it.
All good. Well, if you're going to croak, just signal to me first, and then I'll take over for you. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
I want to start first of all by thanking you, firstly for coming onto the show, but also for putting us on the map, I guess you could say. So. For those that are new to the show or are familiar with us, about 12 months ago, we sat down and did quite a lengthy sort of show with Todd Hazelwood. And within the next 24 hours, up comes this V8 Supercars article, main page, front of a article about Todd's mum, Sharon, which was actually an excerpt from our podcast. So I want to thank you for making Lee and I cry, because that was actually legit. It was a buzz. To find out that we made front page of V8 Supercars. So, and that's kind of where our relationship started.
It definitely was. Like, I listened to the podcast and I'm a huge fan of Toddy's. He knows that. You know, he was one of my first interviews ever before I sort of really went and chased my own dream. And I'm such a huge fan of how hard he has worked to get to where he is and what his family has sacrificed and put on the line to make his dream come true. I'm a big fan of his sister, Lauren, who works at Motorsport Australia. She's very accomplished in her own right and wants to give back to the sport as much as she can. And I remember in 2019, I was at Bathurst and I was a event official. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs checking tickets, and I was outside the MSR garage, which is where Toddy was at the time. And I watched Sharon hustle and work sponsors and just, do everything she needed to make sure her son went racing. So when I heard the story in his own words on the Negative Camber podcast, I thought, I have to share this. This is so good. And if anyone has yet listened to that episode or read the article, the amount of sausage sizzles that family has done to make Toddy's dream come true is just outstanding, astonishing. I don't think anyone has ever cooked that many sausages in a year, isn't it? It's ridiculous. It's something like 8,000 sausages or something.
Yeah, it's insane. In fact, on my way into the studio, they were actually out there at Mitre 10 at Glynn this morning with the marquee up, and Sharon and Rusty were there. So it's ongoing. Yeah,
They're just amazing. And yet now, at Albert Park, I got to catch up with Sharon and we had a good old chat and a good old laugh. And yeah, they're all just wonderful, that family. And then Alice as well, Todd's girlfriend, she's an accomplished karter.
Yep.
Just, wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen, I never forget when we were in the pits, I was fortunate enough to watch the race at the Adelaide 500, 2018, I think it was, 2018, 2019. And for the whole race, Sharon's fingers were like this behind the monitor. And I'm sitting there going, man, if you don't have arthritis by the end of this, it was like this for the whole race. And she was just glued to the monitor, didn't deviate from the timing screen, poked her head out when Todd came in to do, say his pit stops. And it was like that the whole time. It was just and I don't even think she realizes that she does it now. It's become habitual. But yeah, no, I completely agree. Such a humble kid. I say a kid because I feel like I'm nearly he's almost his dad in terms of my age versus his. But no, I completely agree. Like, that's rags to riches, but that I think they really reflect what motorsport is actually really like here in Australia in terms of how hard you have to work to achieve your dream.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think, my son started karting a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, where we've moved from Queensland to Queensland, he's not karting at the moment, but just in general, just to get your child to the kart track. And then my son sort of is not even really at the point where he wants to pursue it really any further. But then you think of, what a parent goes through just to get to their son to the track on a Sunday. Yeah. I don't do any of it. Whereas if you think if your son actually wants to, or daughter wants to pursue it as their dream, that would be your whole life. And I think that we can only kind of comprehend, and they'll probably never even tell us what they really have gone through in those moments of, do we put our house on the line, or I don't know. But you sort of, for me, and I'm sure for yourself, to shine a light on those stories and say, hey, this is what it needs to be. This is what you need to do to make your dreams come true. Come happen. What? Seriously, I think the Codrill's kicking in, guys. Sorry.
All good. You're all good. I'm not judging you, Dal. It's all right.
But this is what you've got to do to make your dream come true. And I think, in the I'm going to sound really old now. In the world that we live in now, with social media, everyone's just showing their highlight reel of, I've made it, whether that's true or not. But no one shows the journey, and no one is kind of, some people are, some people aren't, but it doesn't feel like a lot of people are reaching out their hands and saying, come with me, I'll help you. So, it's sort of, I think we really need to, show those stories. I think it's really important for the next generation to say, okay, Toddy's made it, but hey, Toddy put in years and years and years of hard work together. Yeah,
completely agree. Speaking of journey, who's Charlie Bullis? How did she get into V8 Supercars journalism?
Well, good question. I have a very, very long answer. If you've ever heard me on a podcast or anything before, I apologise. You're going to hear it again. But if you haven't heard it before, look, I moved over from England in 2006 with my family, just about to turn 18. I did not want to come. I had dreams of being a journalist, a fashion journalist, which is what most girls, 15-year-old girls, want to be. Did not grow up in a motorsport family in any way, shape or form. But I remember in 2006, I actually went to Gold Coast Indy, and I was blown away. I was like, I cannot believe these guys drive that close to concrete. It is just terrifying, but also electrifying on the same page. So, but yeah, look, went to go and try to go to the Sunshine Coast University to become a journalist, and they looked at my straight A's because I was a bit of sorry, I can probably say kiss ass in school.
I was going to go geek, but that's cool.
Well, you'll learn this about me. Networking is my thing. Yeah. So I'd say I'm clever, but I kiss ass pretty well. So I took my straight A's to uni, and I was like, oh, they're going to just let me in, aren't they? Come on. And then they looked at them and went, oh, we don't know what these are. You'll have to go back to year 9 and start again.
You kidding?
And no. So I was an 18-year-old girl, and I thought 2 things crossed my mind. 1, no. And 2, I don't think it's a good idea to put me in a room full of 15-year-old boys. Just say, I don't think that's a great idea. So I just went and got a job and just worked in hospitality, as you do, and really bounded around for several years. I reached my early 20s, and I never really stuck in a job more than 6 months because I didn't know who I was, didn't know what I wanted, thought I had this plan, and it was never going to come true, and I just had to accept it. Looking back now, you think, Jesus, you didn't even go and get a second opinion. Why did you not try and fight that? But at the time, it was, I didn't have a friend in the world. We'd moved to the other side of the other side of the planet. So, and my dad was like, you need to go get a job, you need to start your life. So that's what I did. And then fast forward again. So moved to Brisbane in about 2010, met my husband 2011, and then, had my son in 2013. And then, so then I wanted to be at home, wanted to spend time with him, and little opportunities kept coming my way to do presenting and to do writing, and they came out of the blue in really odd ways.
Yeah.
So it was always in the back of my mind. It was always niggling at me saying, this is what you should be doing, like wake up to yourself, essentially. But that moment didn't happen until my son started school. And I remember this so vividly, and I'll remember it forever. He probably will as well, because I tell it that much, and he'll be like, for God's sake, stop telling this story. But it was his first day of school. He comes home from school and he asks me the question, Mum, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I said to him, buddy, you can be whatever you want to be. Just don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. And that for me was like, oh my gosh, light bulb, you massive, massive hypocrite. How can you say that to your own son when you let one person that looked at a piece of paper and then told you that you couldn't do it?
Yeah.
So luckily, look, I was in a position where I could then go back to uni as a mature age student. By mature age, I was 10 years older than all of those kids in there.
Yeah.
But I was 10 years hungrier than all of those kids in there.
Yeah.
Because this was my shot. So I went to a uni that was super hands-on, had a newsroom. So you were expected to be writing and creating news as soon as you walked in that door, which is what I wanted.
Yep.
And then from there, the networking began. So coincidentally, but also kind of cosmically, I would say, my husband had begun racing in the New South Wales sports sedans.
Yep.
So he was in Division 3. And I sort of looked around grassroots motorsport and thought, gosh, there's a distinct lack of female representation here. And by all means, I'm all for women in motorsport, but I was, to be brutally honest with you, I was for myself in motorsport. I wanted to be in it, and I saw that I was someone that could fill a gap that was there.
Was it mainly, was it the appeal of it from a speed and a thrill type of thing as well? I mean, obviously hubby was racing. But was it the spectacle? I mean, a grassroots is not really the spectacle as such, but was that what was also driving you too?
I think for me, it was seeing the highs and lows firsthand.
Yeah.
It was like Bathurst 12-hour 2020 before the world changed. It was heading to 40 degrees and the tin tops were the support category. My husband had just bought a C6 Corvette space frame with a massive big Dodge engine that is more volatile than I'll ever be. And we are, and it's the effort to get there, the work on the car, and you get there on the Friday. You've taken time off work, obviously. You've got there on the Thursday. I think you get there because it's all practice and everything. And, he comes down into the chase, and a coolant cap that looks like it's threaded on, but because it's got a weird threading to it, actually isn't on, comes off, spills coolant over the front wheels, and he goes into the gravel. It rips the front splitter completely off the car. He's doing over 200 k's an hour. The car's done.
Yeah.
I was actually working for Speed Cafe that weekend, and I'm sitting in the media centre, and because there's no broadcast coverage of it at the time, I'm watching the timing screens. And I'm seeing everyone else go green apart from my husband's name.
Yep.
And I can see that it's been red flagged, and I can see everyone else coming back into the pits, and I can see that he's not moving. And I know I'm on the other side of the paddock, and I've got my 7-year-old son with me, and it's 40 degrees to the point where you're running across the paddock and your feet are sticking to the tarmac because it's melting.
Yeah.
And by the time I get there, the car's been pulled in, it's trashed.
Yeah.
And I think that, to answer your question, that for me was, this is, as horrible as that is, this is what motorsport is. This is, you've got the highest of the highs when you're standing on the top of the podium, and all your hard work and the sacrifice and everything that you've given to it has come to a great moment. But then you've got, anyone, it doesn't matter if you're Shane Van Gisbergen or someone racing in an XLs, you've got probably 15,000 of those moments where you've crashed the car or something's gone wrong, or you've just, gone to the starting line and the car won't start. Or, there's a million things that those moments that you've gone through to then get yourself to that top step. Yeah. And I think for me, that's motorsport, and that's what I wanted to share, within the job that I do.
Yeah, great. Well, we're just going to go off to a break because this is really starting to get interesting. And when we're going to come back, we'll talk about how you actually got into supercars and also explore women in motorsport a little bit more, because you touched on it just then, and I want to go down that little rabbit hole a bit as well. So we'll be off to a break, and then when we come back, we'll have Charlie Bullis continuing this chat for V8 Supercars.
Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners.
Ready to turn your karting dreams into reality? Look no further than Pro Karts Race Centre. Imagine hitting the track in the kart of your dreams, a ride that matches your budget and aspirations perfectly. With our pre-loved kart sourcing service, we make it happen. Our experienced team isn't just about mechanics, they're dream builders. We meticulously hand-pick each kart, ensuring reliability, performance, and sheer exhilaration. Whether you're a seasoned racer looking for an upgrade or a newcomer stepping into the world of karting, we're your pit crew, your partners in racing dreams. Get ready to feel the wind in your hair, the thrill in your heart, and the victory at your fingertips with Pro Karts Race Centre, where dreams truly come to life. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. Pro Karts Race Centre, fueling your dreams, igniting your potential.
Continuing on from where we left off, so you've started to get that exposure of motorsport. What was the road that led you to get your gig at Supercars?
Pretty much as I alluded to before, I'm pretty good at networking. So that's what I did, and I just looked around for so many, any opportunity I could find. And I think I was sitting one evening watching Fox Sports 506, a good channel that, plenty of motorsport on it, and I spend my life glued to it, I think. And there was a motorsport category called TA2, and it was the highlights of their previous round, and then I saw they were going to be at Sydney Motorsport Park, which was 20 minutes down the road to me, and that was September 2020. Is that right? 2019. Yep. And so I contacted their media person and said, I'd really like to come down, see if I could help out. And if anyone who doesn't know, the person that runs that category is Craig Denyer. And Craig Denyer is a very well-respected motorsport figure. He is the man behind V8 Utes. Charlie in 2019 didn't know that. So Charlie in 2019 turned up at Sydney Motorsport Park and said to Craig Denyer, give me a go. I really want to be here. I want to do this. I want to do some presenting. Give me a go. And he said, have you done it before? And I went, yeah, I've done it before. What are you talking about, Craig? Well, have you not seen me and stuff? And then he said, yeah, you know what? You give it a go. I need this package done about father and son races. You do that for me. I watch it. If I like it, you come back tomorrow. It was very mob style, and I liked it. Yep. So I said, okay, no worries. So went away. I did it. And then on Saturday, that was Friday evening, he said, come back tomorrow. And then on Saturday, did other things. Okay, come back tomorrow. Yep. And then from that, I was able to build a bit of a show reel. And then from, I think it was a couple of weeks later, they had their penultimate round at Queensland Raceway. And that was an incredible round. Aaron Seaton, it just came down to the wire, and he managed to, they crashed in the opening race. It was a twilight race. He crashed and the car was completely totaled. They stayed up all night fixing the car. He goes back out there and wins it, rolls back into pit lane. He's got a flat tyre. It was like you could not write the story. It was incredible. And then, from there, the ball just started rolling. And I went to Bathurst. As I said before, I was an event official. I stood at the bottom of Tower 3 and I spoke to every single person that went by. Matt Nolte, Chad Nailon, Bryony Ingerson, Kylie King, Kate Peck. I spoke to all of them and said, how do I do what you do? And oh my gosh, they were all so amazingly gracious, for one, and didn't think that I was a complete weirdo that was stalking everyone that walked by.
Yeah.
But Chad Nailon and Matt Nolte, I owe a lot to those two, and I am such massive fans of them, not only in the work that they do, but just good people. And they mentioned my name to the right person. And it still took a year of me proving that I could do the job. And I still had to go through quite a lengthy interview process that I was convinced I was not getting the job at all. And then I worked harder than everyone else. Well, I felt like I did, worked harder than everyone else, or wanted to work harder than everyone else there to prove that I deserved to be there in such a really short amount of time, because I popped out of the snow like a daisy. It was 2 years really from me saying, yes, I'm going to do this, to me walking in the door at Supercars.
Yeah.
Does that happen to a lot of people? No, it doesn't. But I worked really hard for it. I told everyone that's what I wanted to do. I think sometimes we can get so scared of saying, oh no, this is what I want. I wasn't scared of that. I was more scared that I wasn't going to get there. So that made me go ahead and do it. So, and I think it was, and just genuinely, as we were saying before, about sharing those other stories, finding those stories about the person under the helmet and the person that, sharing the stories like the Tickford mums, for example, that we shared on Mother's Day. You know, it's Tim Edwards' wife and her best friend. They've started being the chefs and the looking after the whole team, and they started that during COVID. And they are the two most wonderful women, and what they do for that team. And it's feeding the team, but there's such an integral part of making sure those boys are feeling their best to go and race. And they feed everyone from the truck driver to Cam Waters, and sharing those stories. I think that's what I want to leave behind for Supercars.
Yeah. I think it's props to you for the tenacity, because there's other people that would have thrown the towel in well before you did. But I guess it's and I don't know if you believe in the whole law of attraction thing. Like you put it out there, you put it out to the universe, and then it came back to you. So props to you. But no, I agree. I think V8 Supercars as a sport, on the media front, in the last couple of years, it's really started to sort of come to the forefront, where you see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that in the past has been almost mythical. And I think in this day and age, and you've seen it with F1, with Drive to Survive and that type of thing as well, where the behind the scenes stuff is what attracts the new generation, because they can see, and there's a lot of transparency there. And I think that'll actually make the sport, it's it's just as popular in its own way, but back to like what they call the peak era, which was early to mid 2000s, sort of Project Blueprint era, where crowds were massive and everything was just, the series was going off.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we all want. You're working at Supercars because you love the sport. Like maybe like me, you maybe weren't someone that grew up in it, but you're certainly someone that loves and respects the sport and respects the people that are in it, and only really want the best for the sport. And, all of us, not just in the digital team like me, but events team, commercial, everyone, we all just want the best for the sport. And I think, sharing those moments, those candid moments, and I totally understand why drivers and teams, yes, there's a lot of IP in what they do. There is so much, and they work so hard to find that teeny tiny 1% that goes and beats the other team. I totally understand that. But for fans to connect with our sport, it is about showing those candid moments of, like just seeing Lee Holdsworth hugging his kids after, standing on the podium after, losing his seat and then coming back, like those moments, and just seeing little baby Ryu wandering around like near the trophy, and the trophy's bigger than him. Like it's just those little moments. And then there's also those great things where we see, at the beginning of the year, we had our media day and we got the drivers to sit down and tell each other dad jokes. That is rated so well. And I'm so proud that I wrote some of those dad jokes, because if you do follow me on Instagram, prepare yourself for dad jokes, because I love a good dad joke.
There's that coming after, don't worry. Don't worry.
I've got to get my list of all the funny ones. I saw such a good one about IKEA yesterday. I nearly died. It's so good. It took a while to put together. Boom. Okay. Just warming you up for some dad jokes. But yeah, I think it's just those candid things that, fans connect with and they crave now. And there's a reason why, Drive to Survive is so popular, is because there's a camera in that holding room before they go on the podium. Yeah. And there's just those little conversations that you see the drivers, geeing each other up, or they're talking tech, but you see the smirk on their faces and you can feel the tension in the air when you watch it. And I think that's something that, Supercars Digital Team, we're always striving to get those moments and to bring a lot of humour, because our guys, our drivers and our teams, they're genuinely like everyday kind of blokes. Like, whereas F1, there's a lot of money there. Those guys are normally, they feel a little bit more untouchable, whereas our guys are just everyday guys that have worked really hard to where they need to get to where they need to be. And then really when they're not at the track, they're hanging out with their mates out on the boat, or they're going fishing, or they're going karting and just doing sort of more like normal people things. Yeah. And it'd be great to sort of, I think a lot of our fans think that, I can watch Chaz win a race on a Sunday, but, I'd love to have a beer with him down the pub. And I think that's what makes our sport just perfect to me.
Yeah. The thing I love about it too, and it's always been like this, is just how approachable everyone is. The drivers have always they've been more than willing to have autographs and that sort of thing, whereas F1 has only really sort of started to touch on the fan connection really since Liberty Media took over about 3 or 4 years ago. Whereas before, to get a chance to even meet an F1 driver was just, almost like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, which it shouldn't be. Like, it's the pinnacle of motorsport, but at the end of the day, it's the people that walk through the gate that largely fuel it. So why not have that connection with the fans?
Absolutely. And I felt that in Albert Park. It was my first time that I'd been to a Grand Prix, which makes me sad, knowing obviously I'm English, so I should have gone to hundreds by now. But, and I caught a glimpse of them just by chance. I just happened to be standing at the podium, and I had to be there for someone who fell ill that day. So I wasn't even really meant to be there. And all the drivers walked out underneath the podium as we were all standing there for the Supercars podium, because we're not allowed in their paddock. So even though we're a support category for F1, we're not allowed in there. Our passes don't open the gates. So we're at the top level of motorsport in our country. We are still, I still felt a bit like, oh, okay, we're not at that level. So I think it would be great for fans of F1 to be able to get more of that one-on-one experience. But then that is obviously what makes our sport so wonderful, is that we have signing sessions, and you've got young kids that can go get their hat signed by their favourite driver, or we host breakfasts and things where you can go to a Bunnings and go catch up with Frosty and Scott Pye. And go and have a chat to them, like, outside the Bunnings. Like, that, to me, that's really cool. Like, that's meeting your hero. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on the women in motorsport aspect. It's, I don't want to say this in the wrong terms, and forgive me for that, but it's like there's a movement now, and globally, women in motorsport, it's a rare thing, at least at the top level. I think when I look back on it, Australia has probably pioneered that a little bit more, in the respect that we've had women racing at the top level since the 70s with, say, Christine Gibson, as an example, Simona Di Silvestro, how have you seen that from your perspective, especially given the fact that you've, when I say relatively new to the sport, you have, it hasn't been a DNA thing for you?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jamie. I think we have pioneered it in a way. I think there is so many women that have paved the way for women like myself that I don't have any intentions of racing. I did it once. I was terrible. Did a test day. It was absolutely shocking. But there are so many wonderful, wonderful women that have paved the way in so many different areas of this sport, and I will forever be thankful for them because they've made that door that I still feel like I bust through the door, but they made that door just even available to me, and I will forever be grateful. And I think now there is a lot of women that are in the sport behind the scenes that feel that way and feel like, well, those women that pioneered it, they were on their own. And we don't want the next generation of girls to feel like they're on their own. So I think that's why you just hear about it so much more now, because we're trying to make a lot of noise. You've got girls on track that want to make a lot of noise and just make it very visible, which I'm so here for. And again, like I was saying before, it is also about saying where you want to go and actually saying it and be like, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, and make some noise. So then the other girls and young boys, I think this is not an us and them thing. I think that's, you know, I do kind of get a few comments about that as, you know, would you help a young boy? Of course I would. You know, like I've got a son of my own. Of course I would help a young boy. It's just unfortunately a young boy won't come to me for advice. A young girl does. Yeah. Whereas, if a young boy came to me for advice, of course I would help him. There is no two ways about it. This is not a gender thing. This is just about being someone that can be seen, that other people can go, oh, hey, if they can do it, then I can do it. Yeah. Like if a 30-year-old mother can turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to completely change my life to make my dream happen, you can do it too. Like I'm no one special. So I think we, like Leanne Tander, we need to thank Leanne Tander. We need to thank Molly Taylor. There's so many other women that we really need to thank. Jess Dane is a massive one of them as well. She brought Girls on Track to Australia and had those hard conversations of women like Susie Wolf. I couldn't talk to Susie Wolf. I'd blow up in flames. I wouldn't be able to talk to her. I'd completely fangirl all over her. So I think we have to thank those women, and those women continue to give their time and energy to make sure that, we're making a lot of noise so that other girls can feel supported to go and do it. But I think where me in Careers with Gears, what I kind of started is taking the next step of, okay, well, this is where you want to go. How do I do it? How do I physically get to where you are? And it's, okay, well, what is it you want to do? Let's match you with someone that is doing it and shadow them, see what they do, see if you actually like it for one. But then also learn that motorsport in Australia is one of those incredible places where if you show that you want to be here and you want to work hard, you are welcomed with open arms. And it honestly does not matter your gender. It doesn't, you speak to team owners like Tim Edwards, I know is very much like that. If you want to do the job, I don't care if you're a boy or a girl. If you want to be here and you want to do the job because it's not a 9 to 5, then I will help you and I'll be there for you. And Erebus as well, they're very, very much like that. So, and Motorsport Australia and, of course, Girls on Track, they're very, very much with their Champions program, which I'm a part of, that's very, very much where they're heading. We are encouraged to mentor. We're encouraged to have girls come and spend time with us at the track and just experience it and feel comfortable in pit lane. Because I think that's probably the biggest thing to begin with, because it's extremely daunting. Yeah, absolutely. The thing I love about motorsport, just before we go to our next break, we see it with our two little girls that race in the Scuderia Adelaide racing team, which is our local karting team. They more than hold their own. In fact, in many cases, they're the ones that are actually finishing on the top steps of the podium. And unless they take the helmet off, the thing I love about, especially grassroots motorsport, is that you don't know whether they're male or female until you hear the name or you see them rip the helmet off. Everyone looks exactly the same. They're driving the same thing. And in many respects, they're probably more tenacious. The thing I love about watching our girls in the team grow and develop that's part of the rewarding aspect of the journey. But then also to see, the photos of, them standing on the top step of the podium, big cheesy grin, and you see all the boys around them just like, all downtrodden and stuff like that. It's really cool. And you get a little chuckle out of it. So,
Look, I love the fact from our point of view that we are helping fostering that growth in any way, shape, or that we can. I mean, we're only a very, very, very small team with no budget, but people like yourself that have got that platform to help with that generation come through. Props off to all of you.
I think it's really important what you're doing as well. Grassroots motorsport, none of us would be here without it. So to keep grassroots motorsport and keep fresh, young kids wanting to come into the sport, that is what it's all about. And anyone that ever says to me, where do you begin? I say grassroots motorsport. That is where you need to cut your teeth. That's where you need to understand all the different roles. That's where you go. And I think what is so wonderful about what you're doing is, to give your young girls that opportunity is amazing. And the confidence, resilience, and, like you say, tenacity that karting teaches you, you cannot buy that. And I just think that, okay, hold on. Karting's not cheap. So technically you've probably bought it. But the actual experience you can't buy. And I think, congratulations to you, because it's not easy. And, like we were saying earlier in the show, it takes up so much time and effort just to get to the track. But then, what you're giving them and what you're giving motorsport as a whole by bringing in the next generation, it's amazing.
Thank you. And we need to thank our sponsors now, because we're going to go off to a break. And then when we come back, we'll have some more of Charlie.
You're listening to Negative Camber with Jamie and Lee on Radio Italia Uno 87.6 FM.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, proudly supporting the Scuderia Ferrari Club Adelaide. We hope you're enjoying the show so far. I've got Charlie Bullis, V8 Supercars journalist, on the line, and we're now going to talk Winton, the event just gone. My summation was that it was the Shane Van Gisbergen and Cam Waters show. I don't know what your takeaway was from that.
It definitely was, with a side of David Reynolds, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it's the big thing for me was Tickford finally delivered in spades at their home track, and it was actually good to see. I think the big thing I found in the championship this year is that the only constant is Shane Van Gisbergen. Everything else underneath that is not. But you're right. The growth of Grove in this championship in particular has been great. So to see Dave back to his best it's great for the sport. You need to have David Reynolds in there, even for his wit.
Oh, absolutely. And a happy David Reynolds is just amazing to be around, genuinely. And I think it's so interesting, because we are seeing a very quick trajectory towards a career best David Reynolds this year. I think I was looking at some sort of stats before, and fair enough, there's no win, but he's career best of fifth. He's at fifth right now. So he's on this track to, he has given away some points with some DNFs and some other things that have gone wrong, kind of out of his control. So I think I read it was 136 points that have gone awry for him. If he'd have kept those, he would be in shooting distance of where Anton is. Yeah. So I think, David Reynolds is 100% the one to watch. And it makes me excited, because, you put a microphone in front of David Reynolds and you never know what you're going to get. And it makes me laugh. And he's just so honest and nice. And and he will tell you himself, he's an interesting cat. And I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's the times that I've seen Davey in the pit, it's always hey bro, how you going? And he doesn't know me from a bar of soap, but it's almost like we've got this thing, like it's like, hey Dave, how are you? So I'd love to get him on the show at one point as well. I actually was thinking today, one thing I miss is Below the Bonnet. Like, I don't know what happened and why it's not hasn't come back this year, but it'd be good to have him and Caruso sort of back together again, firing bullets at each other. It's great. You miss that banter.
Definitely, their banter. Like, I do the Paddock Club Q&As, and when I see that Dave Reynolds and Lee Holdsworth are on my list, oh my gosh, I literally rub my hands together and go, this is going to be amazing. We did one in Perth, and oh God, I can't probably tell the story without laughing, but Dale Wood walked in they're heckling Dale Wood because everyone says that Dale Wood's got like an amazing rig. Everyone, doesn't matter, if Dale Wood walks into a room, everyone screams, show us your rig, like the poor bloke. But yeah, so they're heckling Dale Wood and I'm trying to keep them on track and go, no, guys, it's like, let's talk about this, talk about that. And, because Davey lives like a stone's throw away from Albert Park, he was taking Lee back to his house afterwards and like making him dinner. So he was putting on like a slow roast. They'd go and race during the day and then they'd come back. And yeah, it's just, sorry, I'm going to cough now. Yeah. But yeah, it was just so funny and I just genuinely enjoy it. But I think Groves, what's so interesting, it's genuine pace. This isn't, okay, yeah, Winton's their home track, it's their test track, they're going well there. It's not. Tasmania, he got a podium. Melbourne, Albert Park, podium, and now Winton, podiums. So this is a genuine return to form for them. But what was interesting, I found, is that you spoke to, David Couchy, a new addition to that team that's making big inroads pretty quickly. We all knew he would. He comes from Triple Eight. He's a championship winning engineer and he knows how to do it. Talking to Couchy, he thinks qualifying is a big weakness for them. So once they tick that box and get that one lap pace there, and we saw it, Reynolds was topping practice and blitzing everyone, and then he goes to qualifying and it wasn't quite there for him. So everyone struggled with tyres that weekend, but once they get that quite right, then I think they are going to be a real force. And I'm really looking forward to it because it wasn't something that any of us saw happening at the start of this year.
Yeah, no, far from it. And I think it was actually really good to see that Lee Holdsworth had actually gotten on top of his qualifying issues as well, because that was his big, he's got amazing race pace, but qualifying was a massive issue for him. He just couldn't connect with the car. I remember when we were watching the telecast at Sydney Motorsport Park, and he'd qualified at the back of the grid, and I think it was Chad that came up to him, Chad or Larko, they came up to him at the end of qualifying, and he was just as low as, he'd ever been. He just could not understand where the speed had gone.
Absolutely. And Lee is someone who's, throughout his career, he's been a consistent performer. And, we saw just absolute magic in him at Bathurst last year with Chaz. That was just an incredible display from both of them. Yeah. And then, to sort of put him in that Mustang, and we were all rightly or wrongly expecting, because that's what we do, we expect highly of all of these guys on the grid, and then it just wasn't connecting for him, as you say. And then we get to Albert Park and we saw little bits of it happening, but then his pace, we saw his pace in Perth, he was knocking people off left, right and centre and charging through the field. So you're right, there was never a question about that race pace, it was the qualifying, something wasn't clicking. So now I just feel like they're on the precipice. They're picking through 1%ers now just to get that unlocked. Yeah. And once they do, I think it's going to be something quite spectacular. However, Darwin last year for Penrite Racing was not good. Both Andre and Davey, I remember them sitting in those bins, the chili bins filled with water and ice, cooling down, and the pair of them, if they weren't laughing over the fact that the lid kept hitting Andre on the back of the head during the interview, the pair of them would have been crying. They were so downtrodden. So I'm really hoping that they've done enough to turn around Darwin, because we're there in 3 weeks. Yeah.
It was good to see that Walkinshaw and Andretti United had a little bit of an upturn in performance, in particular with Chaz. Earlier in the season when they were just at the back of the grid for, I can't remember which round it was now. You'll need to refresh my memory. But where they were literally the slowest cars on the track, which was phenomenal considering how well their start of the year was, and they'd continue that momentum from Bathurst last year.
Yeah, to see Chaz leading the championship when we left Sydney, we were all like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is the championship fight that we wanted. And we knew he was going to Tasmania, somewhere that he'd won last year. And then when we go to Perth.
Yes, that's right.
And there's Nick and Chaz, both cannot even qualify in the top 20. Yeah. And as the Supercars digital team, we're sitting there scratching our heads going, what is going on with this team? This is just not them.
Yeah.
And, and it was, because I just remember I asked Chaz in the press conference in Sydney, I was like, mate, you've won Bathurst, come on. And now you're leading the championship. I don't think I've ever seen a more comfortable and happy Chaz. Like, are we in Chaz Mostert's era? And he's like, well, he laughed at me. He was like, come on, calm down. We're round one. But, I'm loving it. Family's back. People are back at the track. This is great. And then to see what they kind of endured in Perth, and Garth Tander was kind of a bit scathing about their performance and just saying, guys, this isn't you, this isn't good enough. So to sort of see them battling back in Winton was really good. And I think you can't ever write Chaz off. He's talented, he really is. And I think for Nick, we're going to Darwin, where Nick won had a podium last year for BJR. Nick is a great racer. Everyone speaks so highly of Nick's talent, and with good reason. I think we just need to give him some time to develop himself in that car, feel more comfortable in that car. And I think Darwin, even Kurt Kostecki's wild card last year, he made it into the top 10. WAU cars at Darwin, at Hidden Valley, are pretty good. Yeah. So I'm definitely not writing them off. Their season is far from over. I just think it's probably not going to look like what they maybe thought it would this year.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you're right. There's never been a slow Walkinshaw car at Hidden Valley. I mean, even if you go back as far as the Scaife and Lowndes era, they're always there or thereabouts. So definitely can't write them off. Tickford have been up and down in the past there. They've had some good appearances there, and they've had some shocking ones as well. I think for me, it's really important if Cam's going to make a really, really big play in this championship that they have a really solid Darwin. But I think the same goes with DJR as well. If they don't start to really chew into Shane Van Gisbergen's points lead at the moment, that this title race will be well and truly over before we even get to Bathurst.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tickford, I'm a massive Tickford fan. I am. I have to say, I know I'm not going to play favourites. And my son's favourite driver is Cam Waters. I've told James Courtney that when he retires, I will cry. I won't be able to handle it. I cried when he won the championship in 2010. I just will. Yeah. So, call me biased, whatever. But I think Tickford kind of like being an underdog. They like it. Last year in Townsville won. It was abysmal. Give them a week and give them something to chase and something to really, be the underdog. They came back the following week and Cam obliterated everyone.
Yeah.
So we saw it in Perth. The penalty, which I won't go into, saw him lose the win.
Yep.
And he comes back, and even his engineer, his direct quote was, he's going to harness the frustration. Comes back in Winton, 2 poles, 2 wins. So I think Tickford love being an underdog.
Yep.
I think it fuels them in a way, but by all means, they deserve to be up there and challenging for wins all the time. And I would love to see Tom Randall really get a handle on what he's doing as well at the moment. I think in Winton, we saw him running consistently 12, 14s, which for him, there was a smile on his face.
Yeah.
I think the last few rounds, he's felt quite under pressure and felt quite just not comfortable. Whereas Winton, we saw him leaving with a smile. So I'm hoping that's the trajectory for him that's just going to keep growing. We've seen James Courtney on the podium this year. We saw him leading a race in Perth, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think Tickford, they definitely have it without a shadow of a doubt. I just genuinely think they do enjoy being the underdog and rising to that underdog challenge. They do enjoy it.
Yeah, you're definitely right. But JC is certainly connected with his Mustang this year. It's been the best he's been in terms of outright pace, and I think overall competitiveness for probably at least 3 or 4 years. So it's good to see. He's still a class act. Irrespective of experience, age, etc. So he'll definitely play a part as the championship wears on, without a doubt. But Tom Randall, too, is also a very, very classy driver. So I think by the end of the year, he'll be a lot more prominent in the top 10 without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And I keep asking because Snowy River Caravans is James Courtney's sponsor this year, and we saw him with the Akubra in Winton. So I'm just going to put it out there and say that he has to release a line of Akubras because no one would do it better. I just think he's just got it. It would just be hilarious if we could just go to a racetrack and buy an Akubra. Yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we on the show have a segment called Jamie's Jokes, which is really a series of really bad dad jokes. And I know, based on your social media, that you love a dad joke or two. So we're going to have a dad joke off. And then we'll include this in the show, of course. And then later on, we'll do another segment of Jamie's Jokes as well. So I don't know whether you want to go first, considering you're our guest of honour for this evening. But I'll let you go.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to kick off with the IKEA one that I teased earlier.
Cool.
Because this one, I'm really going to try and not laugh because I'll probably go into a coughing fit from my flu. Okay. So the CEO of IKEA has just been appointed the Prime Minister of Sweden. He's currently assembling his cabinet.
I like that one. That's good. That's good.
So good.
All right. This might actually get you laughing. All right.
Oh, God. Okay.
What did the shipmates find in the toilet?
Oh.
The captain's log.
Oh, I read that one this morning.
Oh, God. That's great.
That is good.
That is good. Oh, fire another one at me.
What I absolutely love is that people send me dad jokes now. And Warren Luff, who I adore in so many ways, we only communicate in dad jokes. So there's no hi, how are you, good morning. We just send each other dad jokes. That's all we do. And it's just
great.
The best, absolute best. So do you want to read? I'll read you some of the ones that Luffy sent me if you like.
Yeah, go.
He will love that. He will just think he's hilarious. I always give him a shout out. He's such a good bloke. Gosh. Yeah. He actually sent me the captain's log one. But let's find another one that he sent me. If you think your microwave collecting data and the TV spying on you is bad enough, the vacuum cleaner has been gathering dirt on you for years.
Oh, man, that's gold. I've just deleted all the German names off my pre-owned iPhone. It's hands-free now.
Oh, that's good. Oh, I like that one. That is very, very good. I actually do have one that's probably a little bit political. Can I?
Go for it. Go for it.
All right.
I'll give you authority.
What do you call a Russian bedpan?
What?
A Putin. Probably going to lose my job over that one. But anyway.
All right. This will be my last one. So after you die, the last part of your body to stop working are your pupils because they dilate.
Oh. You win. I cannot follow that one. That was so good.
You have my permission to use it.
Oh, okay. That is amazing. I'm going to send that one to Warren Luff. He will love that.
Go for it.
He will love that. So good.
Charlie,
Wonderful.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And unfortunately, due to time constraints, we could probably talk for another 3/4 of an hour about everything. So, yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. I truly enjoy it. And it's such a wonderful thing to, we've known each other for way over a year now. And, to be a part of the show, it means a lot to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, look, very briefly before we ended up, I was thinking about it the other week where we've done this show for about 12 months and you're actually our first female guest. So it's something that, I'd sort of sat back and thought, wow, we've done this show for 12 months. We haven't had a woman on the show, and yet women in motorsport is as prominent as there's ever been. So you are our first female guest of honour.
I am extremely honoured. Thank you so much. I know that there's so many other, wonderful men and women that will come back on the show for sure. So thank you.
Hey, spread the word in the pit lane. Toddy's tried to do it, but if it comes from the media, there's nothing more powerful than that.
Definitely. I can't write about myself, but I'll definitely spread the word.
I think you've earned the right. So
Well,
No
thank
worries.
you, guys.
We'll leave you to
See
it.
you
Thank
soon.
you so much and see you soon.
You've reached the checkered flag of another episode of Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by ProKarts Race Centre. A huge thank you to you, our incredible listeners. Your support and passion for motorsports fuels our enthusiasm to bring you the latest results, analysis, and interviews from the racing world. Keep that FOMO at bay by subscribing to Negative Camber on your favourite podcast platform. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review and share the show with your fellow racing enthusiasts. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, Negative Camber is more than just a podcast. We're a community of dedicated fans who live and breathe motorsports. Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners. Until next time, stay fueled with passion, embrace the Negative Camber, and keep chasing those podium finishes.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.